this afternoon. I want to pay my respects to the traditional owners and custodians of the land we're on today, the Aurora people, and I also pay my respects to their elders past and present and the struggle that they have had for 40,000 years and the policies that they now face from governments past and present that have treated Aboriginal people very poorly. So I'd actually acknowledge those elders. I'd also like to recognise a warrior of the Aurora people who's called Pemway. Pemway launched a resistance movement against the English administration here in Sydney many hundreds of years ago, and was quite effective for 10 years in running the administration at that time to recognise that they had a problem with the Aboriginal people in this area. They needed to address their problems. There's been a long history of wiping out any resistance that Aboriginal people have in this country, and I think it's appropriate to acknowledge those people that were part of that resistance many years ago, because that history you can build on as an Aboriginal people in the struggle that you have for recognition and for your culture. The CFMEU, who are we? We're a trade union. And what's a trade union? A trade union is a group of people who work together to try and better, in their particular chosen trade or industry, better wages and conditions and social justice. Because social justice doesn't extend in the workplace, it extends into the families and in the communities that we find our people living and working in. So the CFMEU has always had a very broad brush approach to social justice. We've been involved in the apartheid movement before it became popular for people to demonstrate against. We were involved in the independence movement of East Timor before it was popular for people to get in there and fight for. And we were involved here in December 2008 when STICS put on a rally here. I think about 100 people turned up and we addressed those people, and I'm happy to say today that that movement has grown, and each and every one of you that have made the commitment to come here today is part of that long struggle that we need to bring this particular issue to the attention of the Australian public. So congratulations to you all for being here today. The construction union has suffered a similar approach from the federal government. Building workers have been singled out for specialised treatment with special laws in this country. They can be jailed for the mere fact that they've refused to answer questions to the ABCC, which is the Australian Building and Construction Commissioner. He has some very wide-ranging powers. He's able to interrogate people without a lawyer. He's able to seek answers to questions, and if you fail to do that, he can jail you for 6 months. These are the sort of conditions that exist in Australia today for building workers, and it's not too dissimilar for the struggle that Aboriginal people are having in the Northern Territory. And it's because it was a policy that was adopted by the previous Howard government that introduced this type of approach to any organisation or race of people that that government felt that they didn't think they needed to address. In other words, if you were an activist and you didn't like what was happening in your lot, you were dealt with some pretty harsh laws. The trouble is, and the tragedy of what has happened is, the Australian people voted for change at the last federal election. They voted for a government they thought was going to address social justice issues that had permeated through our society for the last 10 years. At this stage, we have been deeply disappointed for what they have done for building workers, and today, through for you being here at this place, is obviously your disappointment as to what is happening to Aboriginal people across this country, and in particular in the Northern Territory. So the union has taken some action, because that's what we do. We're about action. We're about highlighting injustice. We're about making campaigning around issues that we think people should be aware of. So in the Northern Territory, the government has bundled along for the last 2 years and haven't managed to build one house for one Aboriginal community in the Northern Territory. We paid a lot of money to a lot of bureaucrats to sit around and make judgments on how communities should be run. We've had a building company from overseas that has been vested by the federal government to build these homes, and to date hasn't produced one home for Aboriginal people in the Northern Territory. But, supporters, today we have representatives of the CFMEU and other trade unions in the community today, and they've been in the community for the last couple of weeks, and they are trying to put together the first home built by the trade union movement in a local community and deliver that home within a few weeks, so that we can claim that we haven't shirked our responsibility to the Aboriginal people in Northern Territory. We got in there, rolled our sleeves up, and we can produce a home in a couple of weeks. What's the problem with the federal government? There's a rally today in Alice Springs that is coinciding with a similar rally we have here today, and the purpose of that rally is to draw attention to the Northern Territory intervention policy. And today we have some of our representatives. One of our organisers, Rebel Hanlon, has been up in that community for the past few weeks trying to get the house built, meeting with local elders, community groups, and having a first-hand look at what the policy means for Aboriginal people in the Northern Territory. I spoke to him this morning on my way here to the rally, and just to share you his comments, he said, "Mal, you've sent me to the Philippines and I've gone and talked to trade union groups in the Philippines and seen the poverty and depravity that people live in the Philippines." He says, "You've sent me up here to the Northern Territory, mate," he said, "it's got nothing on the Philippines up here." He said, "It's an absolutely gut-wrenching experience for me to see what we're doing to our own people." And that was his comments this morning on the phone, pretty heartfelt comments from him, and he's absolutely disgusted. And when he gets back to Sydney next week, he's going to be asked to go around building sites and explain to building workers what he saw with his own eyes. And it's about building a campaign and about highlighting the struggle of Aboriginal people. I'm going to finish up because it's been a long day and you've had a few speeches and you've been very patient, and we want to listen to the music because it's all about a celebration here today. The important thing for me, and being involved with the STICS movement, is to identify what is a hideous social justice policy that was foisted upon the Aboriginal people. And the best way to do that is to expose that policy in the light of day. Get it out of the shadows of where it is in a distant, far-off place in Australia and bring it into mainstream Australian media and mainstream attention. Because most people that have a social justice conscience, honest, upstanding Australian people, will see that this policy is wrong. They know that it will be wrong and they know that the government should change it. And I'd say we demand first and foremost that the Racial Discrimination Act is restored immediately, unconditionally. So we support you in your struggle for recognition. We support you today and your supporters here and acknowledge your support for the campaign that STICS is running. We commit that we will continue to support that campaign. What I ask of every one of you here today to do is, you've come here because you've been compelled, that you see the injustice of what is being done. It's to share that with your friends. It's to share that with your family. It's to share that with your community, that the next rally we have won't be 100 people in 2008 in December, or today in February 2010 will be 300 or 400 people, that will start to march in thousands, and people will then have to recognise what is going on, why are these people marching, and how do I get in there and help the struggle and the campaign that they're running. That's what we need to do today, supporters, and I must acknowledge certainly the STICS for their campaign and their continual support for those comrades and in the Northern Territory. Cheers, eh?